The part of plot that we're discussing at this point is conflict. You could have a conflict that happens with person versus person. This might be like the example that I used when I did the story plot line, Pat versus the bully. In this case, we would get our character Pat, who was getting teased, versus the bully. In this case, Pat would be the protagonist because she had the problem, she was getting teased, and the bully was making the problem because he was picking on Pat. Next, we could have person versus the environment. This would be when the protagonist has a problem that is caused by the physical surroundings. For example, we could have a physical surrounding. Perhaps the main character gets trapped in an elevator that isn't working. It could be maybe something that occurs in nature. Perhaps the main character, the protagonist, is caught in a blizzard and is battling poor road conditions. A person versus the environment might be person versus society. Perhaps it's a story about a female prior to women's suffrage. We might have person versus fate. Maybe the person actually won the lottery. Well, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. However, then that person is deluged with a lot of relatives that he didn't even know he had, asking for money. Can I have a loan? Can I have a loan? Person versus the environment can be physical, nature, society, or fate. Conflict can also be produced with person versus self. That would be when the protagonist makes his or her own problem. So the protagonist and the antagonist would be the same person. A lot of stories that occur at the middle school level and the high school level involve person versus self. That it's a very interesting conflict that's repeated in a lot of those stories. It could be a physical in nature. Perhaps a surgeon cuts off his finger doing home carpentry on a weekend, and then cannot perform surgeries anymore. That would be person versus self. It might be an emotional issue where perhaps the character is jealous of coworkers and a problem ensues. So that would be a self-inflicted, not being able to control your own emotions, where that could cause problems. It might be mental problem. For example, maybe a teenager experiments with drugs and fries his brain. So here we have person versus self. That would be a self-inflicted malady. Or it could be person versus self in a moral situation. Perhaps the main character shoplifts and then gets caught. So he's got a lot of legal problems after that due to his own choices.